Alright guys, I wanted to quickly create a video about something that I've just finished. Up until now, there hasn't really been any sort of documentation or guide on how to create your own plugin repository for Unmanic. So that's what I've been working on this week. Under the Unmanic docs, there will be this new section here for creating your own repository. Basically in this video we're just going to run through this page here. It's a little bit lengthy, but it's not too bad. And in this video, I just want to run through it play by play, so that it's pretty clear as to what exactly needs to be done. I'm going to do this on my own personal GitHub, forking it from the Unmanic organization GitHub, and so you should be able to get a fair idea of how it's all carried out. So let's get started. Basically, the first step, fork your GitHub repository. If you go to here, up the top right hand corner, in fact let's make this a single window. Up the top right hand corner you've got a fork button. Let's click on that and click on me. Takes only a second. There we go. So now what I've done is I've created a fork. In fact, step 2 says, well, part 2 says ensure that the repository is forked into your account. You can see that up the top here, it's now in my account forked from the official one. So the next step is we got to configure a GitHub token. Now, how these repositories work is they rely on the GitHub actions, which you can read about if you click on this link. You can read about what GitHub actions are. They're a part of GitHub that allow us to automate certain CI/CD pipelines to, in this case, we're going to build the repository when you push code to the master branch. It just means it's a nice tidy way to keep the source separate from all of the binary blobs that will exist when you generate a lot of zip files. They can otherwise bloat your Git repository. So this will keep it nice and tidy. But in order to do that, we actually need to generate a authorization token for the GitHub actions to be able to be authorized to push and write changes to your Git repository. So this section here links us to the GitHub documentation for creating a token. Essentially all you do is go up to here, you go down to your settings, developer settings, personal access token, and you generate a new token. For this repository you just need these ones selected. It's good to put a note in here, so for this case I'm going to go test. And it generates this. Now make sure you copy down this token as it just says right there, because once you've gone away from this page you will not be able to see this again. It is gone skis. Sweet. So moving on, once you've done that, once you've generated your token, I'm gonna go back to I'm going to leave that open because otherwise I have to write it down somewhere. Sweet. So come back to your forked plugins repository. So now we're up to here. Click on the settings tab. Go down to secrets. Enter the name gh_token. First create a new secret, then enter this and come back to this tab, copy the token and put it in there. Click on add secret. That's it. So the next thing, at this point in time I don't need that anymore, so if I didn't know it before it's gone now. It's alright, I'm going to delete it after this video. So we're going to clone the this onto our into our machine. Let's go. So we've cloned it using the instructions here. I'm using SSH, but you can use HTTPS. CD into the directory, and then move on to the next section. So this next step, this is important. So when you've done this, obviously that we're doing this for the first time, these steps are important. At the moment, we've just basically got a clone copy of the current official Unmanic repository, plugin repository, and we want to change it into our own repository. So the first thing we do is we check out the template branch. Then we generate a master branch from the template branch. You'll notice that if you had a look, there is no master branch at the minute. For the official one, the official branch is used instead of master, and then the default is examples, so that when you click on it you can see some examples. But for you might want to have that as master, and we'll get to that in a minute. So now that we've generated a master branch, read this warning, because like I said, if this is the first time you're doing that, this is what you have to do. But if this is not the first time that you have cloned this and you've got things already sitting in a master branch, doing this next step will overwrite whatever is in the remote GitHub repository. So at this point in time, you've pretty much done it. You've now got a repository here. In fact, if we refresh that, we can now see we've got our master branch, and it's just got an empty thing. Whoops. If we go back, we go to source on the master branch. It's got nothing in it. Okay, so at this point in time, you might want to add something to it. I'm just going to let's add in the video trim plugin into source. So we now have that in there. I'm just doing this as an example. So now you can see all my files are in there. Now, there already exists in here a git ignore, so anything that doesn't belong in here will be ignored, so it won't be added to your Git repository. That's important. So yeah, that's good. Then basically, let's just what version is this? Who knows? Let's just pretend like it's a version that we care about. There we go. Commit it and push it. Now, one thing that I haven't done yet, which is actually important, I just realized I'll add this to the documentation before this section afterwards, but too late for this video. When you create a forked repository and you click on actions for the first time, oh no, you know what? I'm going to have to add it afterwards, because the first thing you actually have to do is set the master branch as you have to get rid of this example. So we'll move on, just ignore what I was saying. So the cleanup branches is the next step. So click on branches and click here to switch default branch. Again, click here to switch to another branch. Click the drop down and select the master branch and click on update. Click on the button here, I understand. All it's doing is switching the default branch that you see and what gets checked out by default to master as opposed to examples. Now we've done that, when we click on here, it'll now show us the master branch by default. Just let me check one thing. Yes, so this is what I was talking about. So now on the master branch exists some workflows. So under on the master branch, you'll see this .github directory, and in there is workflows, and there is a workflow called plugin checker. And so that's why that's triggered this. So, and that's the thing that actually builds and deploys your repository, and you need that. So you actually have, I haven't added it to the documentation, I'll add it after here, but you have to click on actions and click on I understand and enable them. So at the moment nothing's happened, but that's okay. So there's one more step, and when we've done it, it'll trigger a workflow anyway, so we'll be able to see how it works. On your back here in your repository, if you have a look at the root of the new repository that you've created, there's a README file, and it contains some instructions, but you'll notice that the repo URL is still just pointed to the official one. We need to change that to your one, which is that. So if I go README, and then I change those lines to that, push that to master, and that's it. So now at this point in time, I would say your forked plugin repository is now set up and ready to use. And if we now click up here into the actions, you'll see it is building. It goes through a couple of tests against each of the plugins that you've got in your source to make sure that they are good, they actually work. It only takes a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds. So that's now complete, and then it will build. In a second. Hurry up. What's taking so long? Come on, I want to show you the next part. Ah, okay. So what we actually have to do here is we have to generate a .config file. Sorry, not a .config. A config.json. If we, I'll add this to the docs as well. If you come to the official one, you'll see there exists a config.json, and in it is the name and repository. So if I go Josh5 and there we go. That was a bit of a waste of time. Sorry about that. So now it'll do it again, but now we've actually got a, well, now if we go to here, in fact, let's just wind back while it's doing that. And we look at our master branch, we now have this config file. Click on actions. Took a little while for it. Wasn't responding. That's alright. So it built the repository. You can see that it deployed the repository here. And if we go back to the actual repository on this page, we will see another branch has been generated called repo, which contains your fully built repo with a zip file and other metadata. It was version 3. And that's it. So at this point in time, your repo is now ready to go. Now, if you want to start using this in your Unmanic instance, if you go to plugins and you go add new, you've got this repositories text box, and over here under adding custom repo, if you click on this in the docs, you'll see that you do exactly this. We want to drop in the URL that we put into the README here, which if we punch that into a tab, you'll see it's a JSON file that has all that sort of stuff. So if we pop that in there and we go update, it'll automatically update. Now we should have, in this example, we'll actually end up with 2. I don't even remember what we were doing. Video trim. See how it's in there twice? 1, 2. Because it's now picking it up from the new repository as well. And that's it. Like I said, I'll update this documentation. Sorry, I missed a couple of sections. That's alright. And hope this is useful to some people.